Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 6, in the matter of Maharaja Parikshit passes away. This chapter describes Maharaja Parikshit's attainment of liberation. Maharaj Janamejaya's performance of sacrifice for killing all snakes, the origin of the Vedas, and Srila Veda Vyasa's dividing of the Vedic literature. After hearing the words of Sri Shukadeva, Maharaja Parikshit stated that by having listened to the Bhagavatam, which is the compendium of the Puranas and which is full of nectarian pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Uttama Shloka, Parikshit had attained the transcendental position of fearlessness and oneness with the Supreme. His ignorance had been dispelled, and by the mercy of Sri Shukadeva, he had gained sight of the supremely auspicious personal form of God, namely the personality of Godhead Sri Hari. As a result, he had cast aside all fear of death. Sri Parikshit Maharaj then begged Sukadeva Goswami to permit him to fix his heart upon the lotus feet of Lord Hari and give up his life. Granting this permission, Sri Sukadeva rose and departed. Subsequently, Maharaja Parikshit, free of all doubts, sat down in yogic posture and merged himself in meditation upon the super soul. Then the snake bird Takshaka, arriving in the disguise of a Brahmana, bit him, and the body of the saintly king immediately burnt to ashes. Janamejaya, the son of Parikshit, became very angry when he received news of his father's death, and he began a sacrificial performance for the purpose of destroying all the snakes. Even though Takshaka received protection from Indra, he nevertheless became attracted by the mantras and was about to fall into the fire. Seeing this, Brihaspati, the son of Angira Rishi, came and advised Maharaja Janamejaya that Takshaka could not be killed because he had drunk the nectar of the demigods. Furthermore, Angira said that all living entities must enjoy the fruits of their past activities. Therefore, the king should give up this sacrifice. Janamejaya was thus convinced by the words of Brihaspati and stopped this sacrifice. Thereafter, Suta Goswami, in response to the questions from Sri Shaunaka, described the divisions of the Vedas. From the heart of the topmost demigod Brahma came the subtle transcendental vibration, and from this subtle sound vibration arose the syllable Om, greatly potent and self-luminous. Using this Omkara, Lord Brahma created the original Vedas and taught them to his sons, Marichi and others, who were all saintly leaders of the Brahmana community. This body of Vedic knowledge was handed down through the disciplic succession of spiritual masters until the end of Dwapara Yuga, when Lord Vyasadeva divided it into 4 parts and instructed various schools of sages in these 4 samhitas. When the sage Yajnavalkya was rejected by his spiritual master, he had to give up all the Vedic mantras he had received from him. To obtain new mantras of the Yajur Veda, Yajnavalkya worshipped the Supreme Lord in the form of the sun god. Sri Surya Deva subsequently fulfilled his prayer. Text 1. Suta uvacha etan nishamya muninabhihitam parikshid vyasat majhena nikilatma drisha samena tad padamulam upasitrana tena murdna Bhaddhanjalistam idam ahasa Vishnuratha. Suta Goswami said, after hearing all that was narrated to him by the self-realized and equipoised Sukadeva, the son of Vyasadeva, Maharaja Parikshit humbly approached his lotus feet, bowing his head down upon the sage's feet. The king, who had lived his entire life under the protection of Lord Vishnu, folded his hands in supplication and spoke as follows. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, some of the sages present while Sukadeva was instructing King Parikshit were impersonalist philosophers. Thus, the word Samena indicates that in the previous chapter, Shukadeva Goswami had spoken the philosophy of self-realization in a way pleasing to such intellectual yogis. So Sukadeva Goswami, as Bhagavatam, was meant for everyone. For those who are already devotees, it makes us fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord, like it did for Parikshit Maharaj, that he could see the form of the Lord. And for impersonalists, it satisfied when he was talking about the philosophy of self-realization, more a little bit of gyan, when he told Parikshit Maharaj how he should be detached and so on. So that was very pleasing to such intellectual yogis. That's also included in Bhakti Yoga, because actually Bhakti Yoga goes beyond intellectual. It is on the spiritual platform. So everything is included in that transcendental realization of ourselves being soul. Then the lower forms of realization, which is connected with the body, that is the intellect and the mind and the senses, the soul can easily understand everything. And so that is for those who are self-realized like that, those who are devotees of the Lord. And then for devotees, what really pleases is the description of the Supreme Lord and our relationship with him and his wonderful qualities and his leelas. That is what enriches and nourishes and pleases the devotees, because they're like honeybees who are going around the lotus feet of the Lord. They're hunting, they're nectar hunters, right? That they know that the nectar is there. Others don't know. Impersonalists, they just think, oh, if I'm just free from all the troubles of material life, I'm happy. They don't know that how great it is to become humble servant of Krishna. And even a materialist doesn't know that. He thinks he's hunting for pleasure in the material world, falsely thinking because we take on different identities and we become so attached to enjoying and lauding it in the material world. And it's very difficult to get out of that illusion unless we hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, and in the disciplic succession, Srila Prabhupada's beautiful purports, Nectarian. And then we are totally, weaned out of this, it's actually a kind of stupidity to imagine something impossible. And as we keep on hearing about the Lord's glories and the loving dealings, his leelas and qualities and his relationship with his devotees, then we get a higher taste and we think, no, I want that. That seems so full of bliss. And here in the material world, I keep trying to laud it and I'm never satisfied. I keep on taking that false identity. People become very attached to their false identities. It may be something, whatever designation, I belong to a particular country, community, family, and I'm a particular gender or my education or my job or whatever, different, so many identities, my position. And people see themselves only as that. And it's very difficult to come out of that and think of oneself as and simply a servant of Krishna. And materially also, Krishna has made it like that, so that at the end of life, one can't have one's job and one can't have, any positions. He has to retire. And from family life also, he can't be so active. So that's the time so that he can understand, I'm none of these things which I am so attached to, but I'm simply a servant of Krishna. But that is the normal for material Varnashram Dharma. That is also meant for that. But pure devotional service, Parikshit Maharaj, from the womb only, he thought of himself as servant of Krishna. Then we can imagine how wonderful, in spite of being in the royal household, in spite of having all the facilities, he was not one bit tempted to identify himself falsely with his body. And so, and here it says, bowing his head down upon the sage's feet, the king, who had lived his entire life under the protection of Lord Vishnu, folded his hands in supplication and spoke as follows. So, lack of false ego means simply to be under the protection of Lord Vishnu. And that's a very wonderful state to be. Imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead is infinite. I mean, which is so glorious, and to be under his shelter. Why we don't? Why we don't automatically? Why doesn't it become our um, default option? Immediately, we only think of Vishnu, but instead we have to pull us in material consciousness in the material world. Mind is always focused outside, and we have to pull it, and with great struggle, oh, let me chant, let me think, let me read, let me hear. I have to force myself to think about Krishna. That's the thing. And then here Parikshit Maharaj, not even a moment has ever forgotten. So that is stupidity to leave such a beautiful state and to, eat poison by running away from Krishna's lotus feet. That is only because of real, some kind of a, um, kind of a delusion by which we think I'm something else. From this most glorious state, imagine being under Krishna, where all the greatest of beings are there. And we left that and wandered away from his lotus feet and thinking I'm independent and I want to enjoy myself. So it is only because of some extreme, some kind of delusion that's what Maya Devi, she's like a witch who makes us lie and sleep on her lap, forgetting this blissful relationship we share with the Lord. Rajovacha Siddhosmi Anugrahitosmi Bhavatha Karunatmana Shravito Yachame Sakshad Anadi Nidano Hari. Maharaja Parikshit said, I have now achieved the purpose of my life because a great and merciful soul like you has shown such kindness to me. You've personally spoken to me this narration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who's without beginning or end. So Maharaja Parikshit feels grateful, extremely grateful to Sukadeva Goswami, who's such a great soul, and not only great, he's so merciful. So the greatest quality in the greatest quality of a spiritualist, of any being, the highest quality a soul can have is mercy and compassion. That's why we say that Sabha Avatara Saro Shiromani is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's the most compassionate. So compassion and mercy are the qualities of the soul, and that is the greatest quality a person can have. And so he feels so overwhelmed with Sukadeva Goswami it's just mercy. He just appeared on his own and he spoke and he told Parikshit, are you satisfied, Parikshit? You want me to tell anything more? Just see, just like Krishna told Arjuna. Arjuna, have you understood everything? Or should I tell you anything more? He asked, now what more do you wish to hear? Imagine, just selflessly he was sitting there just to help Parikshit Maharaj to go back to Godhead. This is love. And so he feels eternally indebted to him. You've personally spoken to me this narration, and what not ordinary some talk of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who's without beginning or end. So wherever we can get knowledge about Hari, our relationship with Hari, we must be so eager like Parikshit Maharaj. Such a perfect combination. Parikshit Maharaj so eager to know about Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami just like a river flowing down nectar on his ears. And just to see that he should go back, and all the time you can see his compassion just coming out, because every verse he is addressing Parikshit as my dear Parikshit, my dear Parikshit, and ended it with my beloved Parikshit. So it's so much love. It is just sheer nectar pouring down. Nati adbhutam aham manye mahatam achyutatmanam agneshu tapatapteshu bhuteshu yad anugraha. I do not consider it at all amazing that great souls such as yourself, whose minds are always absorbed in the,
Madhu, Nana,
in the infallible personality of Godhead,
Madhu.
show mercy to the foolish conditioned souls, tormented as we are by the problems of material life. So, this is the quality of a devotee, a Vaishnava, a great soul, Mahatma, who's always absorbed in thinking of the Lord, has no other desire. He is just wanting to serve the Lord, and he feels so compassionate to see conditioned souls forgetful of the Lord. And this is their only purpose. They come to the material world only for this purpose. Otherwise, they're not at all interested in this place. And their minds are always absorbed in the infallible personality of Godhead. Then what else can they desire? And they look at us, foolish, conditioned souls. Imagine not leaving the shelter of Krishna and thinking that we can find something more far better than that, looking for anything, even a substitute for that glorious nectarian taste of serving the Lord. We're so foolish that we try to squeeze out some happiness in this material world, tormented as we are by the problems of material life. पुराण संहितं एताम् अश्रौष्म भवतो वयं यस्यां कलुत्तम श्लोको भगवान अनुवर्ण्यते. I've heard from you the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the perfect summary of all the Puranas and which perfectly describes the Supreme Lord, Uttama Shloka. Uttama Shloka, the one who is glorified by the choicest of shlokas. Bhagavams takshadibhyo mrityubhyo na bibhemyaham pravishto brahma nirvanam abhayam darshitam tvaya. My Lord, I now have no fear of Takshaka or any other living being, or even of repeated deaths, because I've absorbed myself in that purely spiritual, absolute truth which you have revealed and which destroys all fear. One of our devotees got the name yesterday Abhayada, one who gives fearlessness, Krishna. So, Parikshit is saying that I have no fear of Takshaka or any. Normally, I mean, he's very fearful. Takshaka is a snake bird, huge. We see the painting, right? And anybody will get frightened to be killed by such a, when you know it's going to come and attack you and you're going to be dead. Normally, materially, anyone will get frightened. But because of listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj lost all fear. He didn't care. Any bird, any living entity can come and kill me. I'm not afraid of death. Not just this death, but repeated deaths. Even if I have to take birth again and again and again, I don't care. Because you have revealed who that's so purely spiritual absolute truth and which destroys all fear, not only of death. We keep dying so many times while we are living out of fear. Oh, what will this happen when, we are always frightened of so many things. That is like dying every moment. But the solution to that is given by Parikshit Maharaj. Simply take shelter of Krishna and all the problems will be solved. But why we don't do that? Because we are situated in false ego, identifying ourselves with our body and mind, and our mind is our guru. And every time some problem comes, we mentally speculate and agitate, and mind causes, then you feel like I don't have a shelter, and we don't know what will happen. Anxiety, suffering, everything is concocted in the mind. And imagine who could be in a graver, uh, disturbing situation than Parikshit Maharaj. He knows he's going to be killed, and he's not disturbed at all, only because of taking shelter of Krishna, because I've absorbed myself in that purely spiritual, absolute truth. So that means if you're Krishna conscious, always, we should not get disturbed by anything. The minute we have some disturbing thing, there may be because of mental attachments. Actually, we get disturbed only because of material attachments, because of bodily identification. And we think we are part of this, so much part of this material world, temporary, but we think this is only reality. And we forget Krishna. And so that is why we go through so many negative emotions, fear, and all the other things, especially fear of losing something which we, or if what if this happens and I don't have that which I treasure most. But if we absorb ourselves in that purely spiritual absolute truth, that's the only thing we should ask Krishna. Please let me be aware of you. Let me always think of you. Let my head be always at your lotus feet. Let me not forget you even for a moment. And that is the thing that is the only thing we should ask. Because then our life is totally auspicious, and moreover, we will not be disturbed by any fear. अनुजानीहि मां ब्रह्मन् वाचं यच्छामि अदोक्षजे मुक्तकामाशयं चेत प्रवेश्य विसृजाम्यसून्. O Brahmana, please give me permission to resign my speech and the functions of all my senses unto Lord Adokshaja. Allow me to absorb my mind, purified of lusty desires, within him, and to thus give up my life. Shukadeva Goswami asking Parikshit, what more do you wish to hear? Now the king replies that he has perfectly understood the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and that he is ready, without further discussion, to go back home, back to Godhead. So, as we see, the dialogue is all happening because Parikshit Maharaj was constantly asking leading questions. And that's why Shukadeva Goswami, one after the other, he was narrating. So he wants to ask Parikshit, he asked Parikshit Maharaj, what else you want to hear? And now the Lord is completely established in his heart, and he doesn't want to ask anything anymore because he has understood perfectly message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And without further discussion, he was ready to go back home, back to Godhead. Actually, whatever is happening in our life is also, we are preparing ourselves for this moment. This moment we all have to face when we'll have to leave this world and go back to Godhead, hopefully, not take another birth. That we are thinking only of Krishna, and nothing else matters there, everything else. So for that, the preparation is, we have to keep on hearing about the Lord, just like Parikshit Maharaj. He did it in 7 years, 7 days. We have to do for 7 decades, maybe, before we be ready. 7 decades, or yeah, or maybe yeah. So in this way, we are preparing, keeping on hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and our relationship with him, and to withdraw, to understand how he is the supreme reality, and to absorb our consciousness in him. And there will be so many impediments, of course. Maya is very, very strong, and she'll keep on pulling us away to think of so many other things. And from wherever it wanders, Krishna says, bring it back unto the lotus feet of Krishna. That's what we have to do. And starting from the morning, of course, wherever the mind wanders, bring it back unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna as a servant. Wherever the mind wants to wander around, thinking itself as an enjoyer, hunting for something to enjoy, we have to pull it back. Now, come back. This is where I want you to be, at the lotus feet of Adokshaja. Ajnanam cha nirashtam me Jnana Vijnana Nishtaya Bhavata Darshitam Kshemam Param Bhagavata Padam. You have revealed to me that which is most auspicious, the supreme personal feature of the Lord. I'm now fixed in knowledge and self realization, and my ignorance has been eradicated. Just imagine what a wonderful feeling that must be, that fixed in knowledge and self realization and no more ignorance. And he says, you have revealed to me that which is most auspicious. And what is the most auspicious thing? The supreme personal feature of the Lord, Bhagavan, personalism. And that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as his own devotee, and he mingled with everyone very, very freely and showed what is personalism. What is the personal feature of the Lord to interact so lovingly with his devotees? And that is the most auspicious. If you just love Krishna in a very personal way, not only is it satisfying completely to the mind, the senses, everything, also it's the source of all knowledge, self-realization, everything. He said, first, you have revealed to me that which is most auspicious, the supreme personal feature of the Lord. And because of that, he's saying, I am now fixed in knowledge and self-realization, and my ignorance has been eradicated. So the only thing we need to do is concentrate on the personal feature of the Lord. Cry to him, let me understand your glorious nature. Such a loving being you are, such a supreme being with such wonderful qualities. Please reveal them to me so that, that's the most auspicious thing, to know about the Lord. And it is not an imagination. The mind is covering us and making it hazy so that we doubt even, is the Lord? I cannot experience him. I don't know. Only my mind seems a reality to me. But that is the personal feature of the Lord. We keep on hearing about Krishna, and we have to pray also. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. We think about him, and Vandanam. Also, we need to pray to the Lord, whatever it is. Even if we are feeling some fear or some anxiety or some whatever, some weakness, everything has to be conveyed to the Supreme Lord, because we can in an unliberated state, liberated soul is always glorifying Krishna. Oh Krishna, you're this, you're that. But in our non-liberated condition, we may be plagued by so many thoughts, negative thoughts or fears and all that. We can keep communicating with the Lord, praying to him. Oh Lord, look at me, what I'm doing, and now I'm very anxious. Lord, please tell me what to do. So we have to keep the dialogue with Krishna so that we can always be surrendered to him. And through that, we'll develop a faith, absolute truth. Krishna is every moment, everywhere, without a doubt. And it's only stupidity to forget him and think, oh, where is he? I don't know. And will Krishna hear? Will he help me? All these things are simply rooted on, are attached to the falsehood or illusion. And so we must make a conscious effort to reach out to the Lord. So not only so Shravanam Kirtanam we start in the morning, and during the day we remember him, and also do Vandanam, worshipping, praying to him. Suta Uvacha Iti Uktastam Anugnapya Bhagavan Bhadarayani Jagama Bhikshubhi Sakam Naradevena Pujita. Suta Goswami said, thus requested, the saintly son of Srila Vyasadeva gave his permission to King Parikshit. Then, after being worshipped by the king and all the sages present, Sukadeva Goswami departed from that place. This is spiritual life, totally attached and totally detached. Spiritually, so much attachment. He glorifying the Lord. They were all sitting there and listening to him. And especially between Parikshit and Sukadeva, Such a nice, loving relationship. But all for attaining the Supreme Lord. That attachment is to share Krishna, to hear about him, to give one another Krishna. So Parikshit Maharaja got Krishna, he was ready to go, and Sukadeva Goswami was ready to leave. He has done his job. So, what a perfect state that is. In material consciousness, anything we do, we become proud about it. On top of that, we become materially attached and we think, we're not ready to go when we have to go, all these things. But here, perfect, this pure love. And because of attachment to Krishna, everybody is attached to Krishna, and it's a perfect what you call in perfect state of affairs. Everybody within a family, within within a group, any community, devotee community especially. Only devotees can do that when we're perfectly attached to Krishna, and the source of our relationship or the basis of our relationship is only to gain the what do you call, the attachment to Krishna, then it'll be a perfect relationship, and perfect state of everything will be very perfect. The only reason why we undergo difficulty is because we've forgotten the Lord, and Krishna encourages his devotees to think about him more by surrendering even difficulties. Kunti says, Devi, she says that, difficult moments have been a great boon for us because it made us intensely think about you, and it gave us your association. And now, because now all the problems are over, you're going away. No, no, no. Then you give us problems, so that because on during those problems, we meditated upon you and you came and you solved all the problems. Then why we should not ask for problems? Because that means you will come. And anyway, you solve problems. So that is Queen Kunti's intelligent proposal. But anyway, we should love Krishna so much that happiness or distress, we're always in happiness. We use the opportunity to glorify, to serve him even more. Parikshid api rajarishir atmani atmanam atmana samadhaya param dadya aspanda suryatataru prakule barhishi asinu gangakula Udhanmukha Brahmabhuto Mahayogi Nishangaschinna Samshaya. Maharaja Parikshit then sat down on the bank of the Ganges upon a seat made of darba grass with the tips of its stalks facing east, and turned himself towards the north. Having attained the perfection of yoga, he experienced full self realization and was free of material attachment and doubt. The saintly king settled his mind within his spiritual self by pure intelligence and proceeded to meditate upon the supreme absolute truth. His life air ceased to move, and he became as stationary as a tree. So he is following all the, like how a yogi gives up his life. So he put darba grass, and with the tips of its stalk facing east, and turned themselves towards the north. North is always the direction for giving up one's life. That's why they said when you go to sleep, make sure your head is not facing the north. Because see, yes, turned himself towards the north. Having attained the perfection of yoga, he experienced full self realization and was free of all material attachment and doubt. The saintly king settled his mind within a spiritual self by pure intelligence and proceeded to meditate upon the supreme absolute truth. His life has ceased to move and he became as stationary as a tree. So you can see how the soul, when it is connected with Krishna, meditating, is not disturbed by material things at all. When you hear of yogis meditating for thousands of years, how can they do that? Thousands of years. Even one day to sit and meditate full day is so difficult for us. And how did they do that? Because of self realization. They are so happy in thinking about Krishna that nothing material attracts them. And the body also becomes as stationary as a tree. You don't have even the life air. Life air is also not moving. Prana is what is going up and down in our body. That also didn't move. And he was so much fixed on in meditating. And because he was completely self-realized, he actually saw his spiritual body and he was seeing Krishna. So the and that is why he had no material attachment or doubt. No material attachment. He didn't say, oh, I want to one last talk with my family, my son Janame Jaya. I have some last few things to tell him. Nothing. But then in another, I think in the same place, I don't know, his mother comes and asks him to please tell me, because I don't know why ladies were not allowed there, maybe. I don't know. She didn't hear. So he summarized Bhagavatam to her. Where did I read that? I don't know if it's in 12th canto or. Anyway, we'll see. So, but otherwise, he was just completely ready to go back to Godhead. Takshaka prahito vipra kruddhena dvijasununa antukamo nripam gachan dadarsha pati kashyapam. O learned Brahmanas, the snake bird Takshaka, who had been sent by the angry son of a Brahmana, was going towards the king to kill him when he saw Kashyapa Muni on the path. So the Takshaka, where did they live? Snake. So he was approaching Parikshit, and he saw Kashyapa Muni on the path. Tam tarpayitva dravinair nivartya vishaharinam dvijarupa pratichanna kamarupo dashandripam. Actually, it's very, possible. Why he must have seen Kashyapa Muni is because Kashyapa Muni is supposed to have, I don't know if he's still there, but he is supposed to have meditated in, around in the European part, Caspian Sea, right? Caspian comes from the name Kashyapa. So maybe the Takshaka was coming from that direction, from the north. And then that is why he saw Kashyapa on the way. Takshaka flattered Kashyapa by presenting him with valuable offerings and thereby stopped the sage who was expert in counteracting poison from protecting Maharaja Parikshit. Then the snake bird, who could assume any form he wished, disguised himself as a Brahmana, approached the king and bit him. Kashyapa could counteract the poison of Takshaka and demonstrated this power by bringing a palm tree back to life after Takshaka had burnt it to ashes by biting it with his fangs. According to the arrangement of destiny, Kashyapa was diverted by Takshaka and the inevitable took place. Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake. Krishna wanted Parikshit Maharaj back to Godhead, nobody could protect. So Kashyapa could counteract the poison. He could have gone there and taken away the poison from Parikshit, just like he had brought back a palm tree back to life after Takshaka had burnt it to ashes. Imagine. Not just biting, He had actually burnt it, and Kashyapa Muni could bring it back to life. And so Takshaka all this was arranged by Krishna, and that somehow Takshaka, this thing, stopped the sage and gave him all these presentations and diverted him. Brahma Bhutasya Rajarishir Deho hi Garalagnina Babuva Bhasmasat Sadhya Pashyatam Sarvadehinam. While living beings all over the universe looked on, the body of the great self-realized saint among kings was immediately burned to ashes by the fire of the snake's poison. So that's the kind of poison it has, that if it bites, the poison goes and the whole body burns to ashes. Hahakaro mahan asid bhuvi khed dikshu sarvata vismita hi abhavan sarve devasura naradaya. There arose a terrible cry of lamentation in all directions on the earth and in the heavens, and all the demigods, demons, human beings, and other creatures were astonished. How this happened? Such a great devotee like Parikshit Maharaj, body just finished, ashes. Deva Dhunduba Yone Dur Gandharvapsaraso Jagu Vavarshu Pushpavarshani Vibhuda Sadhu Vadina. Kettle drums sounded in the regions of the demigods, and the celestial Gandharvas and Apsaras sang. The demigods showered flowers and spoke words of praise. Although lamenting at first, all learned persons, including the demigods, soon realized that a great soul had gone back home, back to Godhead. This was certainly a cause for celebration. So that is what a Vaishnava, living or dying, is the same. Living, he glorifies Krishna. Everyone wants him because he's a source of all auspiciousness, and is also we want to, when Vaishnavas, we want Vaishnavas to be here. We don't want to let them go be as long as they can here. But at the same time, when they leave, they go back to God and to Krishna. So for their sake, we should be very happy, though we will be very sad. But it's actually a glorious thing that a soul goes back to Krishna from this dungeon, this darkness, place of Tama, and from here we go to Uttama Shloka. So it's really a wonderful thing. And even the demigods, they're all, whenever a soul leaves and from the earth, they go back because they're going past the heavenly. They think heavenly planets are very nice. We are well situated. But a pure soul goes past all that, goes past all the coverings of the material universe and goes back home, back to Godhead. So actually, that Brahmana boy, his curse was for a good reason. That's why Krishna uses even difficult situations, bad things, for the actual benefit of, for a devotee, it will be spiritually beneficial. Even so-called material problems are actually beneficial for the devotee's progress in spiritual life, or for his services, whatever it is. Or Krishna wants something to reveal. And then everything that happens for a devotee is always auspicious. We can see that in Parikshit Maharaj's life. Imagine being cursed by a Brahmana boy to meet his end for no reason at all. He hardly did anything offensive to be cursed like this. And yet, it turned out so wonderful that he could go back home, back to Godhead. And what is more auspicious than that? We should see that part. Normally devotees, people here in the planet, they will only see this part, that, oh, they left their body. Like when Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he left his body, devotees were saying, oh, why didn't Krishna protect him? Such a great devotee. How did he meet with an accident? We are only seeing this part, oh, he left his body. but he immediately went back to Godhead or wherever Prabhupada was. So that is very glorious. So Krishna had a plan to take him. I mean, it's sad for us, but for him, Krishna actually is taking him to another. He's not going to take another birth. So that is glorious. We don't see that part of it, and so we get disturbed. Why didn't Krishna protect? Why this accident? So whatever Krishna does for us is always auspicious. But as we progress, we'll see that it's more and more spiritually auspicious. Even material so-called problems are actually spiritually auspicious for a devotee, which will actually, I mean, it will become better, whatever Krishna wants. You can never predict. Each person's life is so different. I mean, there is no other devotee like Parikshit Maharaj. His experience is unique. And like that, there are so many other devotees. So it is each one, um, it's very, very unique. But the principle is the same, that one has to, and especially in the material world, we have to face so many, these envious and inimical people like Takshaka and all that, snake-like people. And a devotee has to only, Parikshit Maharaj was not at all disturbed because he had taken shelter of Krishna. And by the mercy of great Vaishnava like Shukadeva Goswami and all the sages who had appeared to help him, they came to help him, but they could not help him. They got helped by Shukadeva Goswami. That was the reason they all arrived there actually. Though in the beginning, they wanted to help Parikshit Maharaj, but they found out that within 7 days, none of them had an answer how to make your life successful. And only Sukadeva Goswami with his Bhagavatam, he could help Parikshit Maharaj in just 7 days to go back to Godhead. In fact, he said, 7 days is a lot of time. Even in the last moment, somebody tells, now forget about everything. Just remember Krishna. You're going back to Godhead. Think about him. And then they tell about, how Krishna is the supreme person, how sweet he is, and how beautiful he is, and how somebody reminds you at the time of death. And then we can go back. But Sukadeva Goswami said, even one moment is enough. Now, 7 days, it's a long time. I can tell you whole of Bhagavatam. So that is the beauty of bhakti, of Vaishnavism, of Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service to the Lord. Even a moment of association with a pure devotee. That's why sadhu sangha, sarva shastra kaya, lavamatra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi haya. Even lavamatra, even a moment, small moment, fraction of a second, because that feeling of pure devotion to the Lord, if we can get it because of the mercy of a pure devotee, even the dust particle from his body is surcharged with bhakti, devotional service to Krishna. And somehow we get that energy. That is what we go into that vicinity, we get that energy into us. That is why his words, of course, sadhu sarvas, lavamatra sadhu sangha. What about words? Even just seeing them, just being close to them, we get the energy of bhakti, and that will make our life successful. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Then with Pranam.
Mataji, गृहस्थ लाइफ में माताजी
Yeah. What?
माताजी गृहस्थ लाइफ में जैसे पति और पत्नी दोनों लोग सन्यासी नहीं हो सकते क्या?
सन्यासी नहीं, वानप्रस्थ दोनों हो सकते हैं, लेकिन सन्यास लेडीज के लिए नहीं बताया गया, क्योंकि सन्यास अकेले रहना का है, और लेडीज अकेला रहना उनको प्रोटेक्ट करना मुश्किल है ना, क्योंकि अपने को अकेले जाने से डेंजरस है, कोई भी कुछ कर सकते हैं, इसीलिए। लेकिन साध्वी बन के रह सकती है, लेकिन संन्यास यानी कि अकेले वो नहीं। उसी के कारण, प्रोटेक्शन के कारण, कि कोई होना चाहिए उनके साथ ना प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए, तो इसीलिए उनको बाहर ऐसे अकेले फॉरेस्ट में, और इतना शक्ति भी नहीं है। अम, वैसे सन्यासी को भी फिजिकल शक्ति नहीं हो सकता है, लेकिन फिर भी वो कुछ तो आई मीन ये कर सकते हैं। इसके कारण सन्यासी नहीं, लेकिन भक्ति भक्ति के लिए सन्यास की आवश्यकता नहीं है। ये परीक्षित महाराज सन्यासी नहीं थे। भक्ति या सिद्धि प्राप्त करने के लिए सन्यास की आवश्यकता नहीं है। भक्ति तो सन्यास से भी और आगे है। जैसे कि वैष्णव ब्राह्मण से भी ऊंचा है, उसी प्रकार भक्ति सन्यास से भी ऊंचा है।
ओके महाराज। महाराज जी, अगर हम लोगों के साथ में बैठे हैं तो हमें क्लास सुनना इम्पोर्टेंट है या लोगों से बात करना इम्पोर्टेंट? जैसे नए लोग आ गए तो उनसे उनको प्रीच करना इम्पोर्टेंट है या फिर क्लास सुनना इम्पोर्टेंट है उस टाइम पे?
उस टाइम पे उनको भी बिठाना और सुनने के लिए कहना।
पर उनके पास टाइम कम है तो?
क्या उनको टाइम की कम है?
जैसे ऑफिस जाना है उनको उसी टाइम पे, तो
हाँ ठीक है। उनको क्या बताया? अच्छा, उनका
अभी
नाम
कुछ बोला
लिया।
नहीं? नहीं नहीं, अभी
ठीक
पूछ
है।
रहा हूँ।
हाँ ठीक है, उनको उनका नाम उनको प्रीच किया।
नहीं नहीं, किया नहीं माता जी, वही पूछ रहा हूँ कि उस टाइम पे हमें क्या करना चाहिए।
हम्म। हाँ, कोई जो जनरली आते हैं उनको बैठ के कुछ ये कर सकते हैं। आई मीन उनको कुछ दे सकते हैं प्रसादम, भगवान के सामने वो बैठ के कुछ करेंगे। जो और इंटरेस्ट दिखाते हैं ना, उनको हम प्रीच कर सकते हैं या प्रोग्राम्स के बारे में बता सकते हैं, ऐसा। बाकी लोग ना ऐसे आने जाने वाला उनको, हाँ आते रहिए हमारा प्रोग्राम्स में।
ओके माता जी।
क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा किसी को जो इतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, उनको ज्यादा बोलने से फिर वो डर जाएंगे ना। हाँ, इसलिए जितना बोलना है उतना नहीं। Alright, so okay, we go for prayers. So prayers for His Holiness Jai Tak Swami Guru Maharaj. I hope he completely recovers soon and he's very healthy and he can travel everywhere and give his association to everyone very soon. So let us chant for him 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Rama, Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Ram
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
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 Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Then we pray for all Prabhupada disciples